good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. Depending on where you're joining us from around the world, you will be in a different time zone. Well, certainly to me. It's just gone midday here in the UK. I have an amazing guest, which we're going to hear more from very, very shortly. But thank you very much for joining us here on our live monthly stream where we welcome guests along, talk about who they are, what they do, and a little bit about their journey. And today I'm joined by Fiona Nielsen, and the subject we've wrapped this round today, but not limited to, because there's so much we're going to be able to explore, is about being a serial entrepreneur. Now, Fiona, thank you very much for joining me here today. Great to have you live in the studio. Firstly, just tell us a little bit about who Fiona is. There's a world listening and watching here, and I know they're sitting there thinking, who's Fiona? What has she done? Where did she start? So just give us maybe a bit of a lead in, a little bit of a background about you.
Sure, and thank you very much, David, for having me on your program. And to give just a very brief intro, because I have somehow accumulated a long CV by now. But I was born in Denmark and studied in Denmark, and I was studying computer science and bioinformatics. And then I was invited to the Netherlands to do a PhD in bioinformatics. And then from the Netherlands, I came to the UK when I left my PhD to go work in industry. So I left my bioinformatics studies to go work for Illumina, the company that makes DNA sequencing instruments. And from there, I left Illumina to start my entrepreneurial journey, where I started off first by founding a charity, which is an unusual start for many. Because I had a passion to solve the data access problem in genomics, making sure that data is used for the maximum impact for finding new treatments for patients. And then out of that charity, I spun a company, and that company turned out to be Repositive. And I ran Repositive for about 7 years, went through multiple pivots until we found our market fit, where we were selling both a software and a service solution to biopharma worldwide. And that was, in a sense, a success story. You're a startup, you pivot until you find your fit, and then it goes well. But then the pandemic hit, all our customers disappeared from one day to the next. The company did not survive that. And I went on to go work with a number of other startups over the years, some that I supported as an advisor and a mentor. And I've been leading a number of startups. So as you mentioned in my intro brief, I was leading O2H Technology, a Cambridge company that has a development team in India. And I was leading them for a couple of years. Then I was CEO of Neurolentech, an Austrian spin-out. So again, a science-heavy, genomics, data-heavy company where we looked how to build a business model for drug discovery. And then most recently, I'm now with Pioneer Group, where we're helping other startups start from their academic roots. How do they make a business case out of the novel technology and make that, well, first spin out that business and then make it a success. So that was a very brief intro to my background.
Wow. We're going to have a lot to unpick here. A journey that sounds absolutely amazing, and some things that are going to be well above my knowledge and understanding as well. So, and there'll be probably other people joining us here that will be going, wow, we need to know more about this. So we will unpick that. I will just say, for any of the audience joining us, thank you very much for joining us. Do use the chat if you throughout this session that Fiona and I are going to explore that journey in a little bit more detail. If you hear or want to share something with us, you can use that chat, whether you're joining us on one of the social platforms or live in the StreamYard studio, just like Elmars has done here. Good afternoon to you, Elmars. I believe Elmars is at this time in Latvia, so welcome from over the other side of Europe. And also we have Jolento here as well. Welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us. So like them, you can put your questions into the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that. And I will pick up those questions and pop them over to Fiona. Here we go. Another one here saying, good morning. Hello, Renus. Thank you very much for joining us as well. So Fiona, I'm hoping that Professor Alan Barrell will be joining us. I think he's maybe a bit delayed, possibly connectivity issues or something like that. But obviously, you know Professor Alan Barrell very, very well. And Alan will have lots of questions to probably throw at you and ask you based on the journey the time that you've spent to get together. But where are you now? Are you in the UK? Are you in Denmark? Where is, or the Netherlands? Where is home for you at this particular time?
Now I'm based in the UK, so
Oh, you're
our
in the UK.
headquarters are in London, and I'm based personally out of Newmarket, so just outside Cambridge.
Ah, okay. So you're here in the UK, not too far from me. I'm in sunny, well, semi-sunny Essex. You've pretty got more sun in the Cambridgeshire Newmarket area than I have. So look, you explored the journey. What made you go from a point of working within no doubt, a very fantastic organisation, being employed, doing that research, to starting your own business? Because lots of the viewers that will be joining us today are embarking on their own entrepreneurial journey in some shape or size. They might be just an idea stage. They've just got this idea. They might be already running their business. Business, we'll talk a little bit about it, can be challenging. It has lots of challenges, lots of successes as well. But what made you go, do you know what? I've had enough working for somebody. It's time to go on my own 2 feet and make my own destiny come true. What was that spark for you that made that pivot point happen?
Yeah, and I realize also this varies a lot from entrepreneur to entrepreneur. So this is just my personal journey. So this might be different from other people, but for me, it was during my work first in academia and then at Illumina, where I was working with genomics data. I recognized again and again people saying, "Oh, I wish I had more data. If only I had data to compare to, I would be able to tell the signal from the noise. If I'm looking at this cancer data, if only I had more data, I could tell which are actually the cancerous mutations and what is just the background noise." And this was obviously, this is some number of years ago, so more data has accumulated since then. But the problem remains that the more data you have for background comparison, the easier it is to tell the signal from the noise. And when I was continuously recognizing this problem in my own work, while at Illumina I was analyzing lots of data sets using the latest sequencing technology to try to find cancerous mutations for different types of cancer. I realized if only there was a platform that could make it easier for people to share data, because there's more data out there than what people have access to. If only you could see what data was available, then more data could be made available and shared for the purpose of making new discoveries that would help cancer patients. And this was sort of the spark that made me start thinking of how can we solve this problem. And I was very keen to find out what is the how can I help solve this problem? Because I didn't believe it would solve it itself. Like the academic world wouldn't solve it. It didn't look like someone had a quick fix from a business perspective or so on. And I started thinking about it so much that I spent more time thinking about solving that problem than on my day-to-day work. And that was the point when I realized actually I should rather quit my day job and start solving this problem.
Wow. So that pivotal point was you got to a way of thinking, I can do this on my own, or not on my, you wanted to start the journey on your own. And then obviously that might scale accordingly, but you saw an opportunity, and there was that point, that eureka moment, as I call it, where I'm going for it. And
Yep.
that is a challenge for some. Now, I work with lots of different businesses of all different sizes, from startups through to more established. And if they've worked for somebody and they've been in that, I would call it a comfort zone. Okay, so you go to work, you do your day job, or whatever that looks like. You get paid. You probably get paid regularly each month in your bank account. You know what
Yep.
it looks like. You know how it feels. But when you go self-employed or set your own business up, that's a very unknown. It's a question I get asked a lot: what if, but, and maybes. So, how did you feel? And I think this is the question here for those that are thinking about taking that leap of faith. How did it feel? One, it was super exciting, obviously, but how did it feel making that change?
I'm very happy that you call it the unknown, because a lot of people describe it as a risk. But actually, what they see as risk is actually just an unknown. And many people are uncomfortable with the unknown. And then they say, oh, it's a risk. Well, what's a risk? Well, it's just, I don't know. Well, that's not necessarily a risk. So I did more or less a personal risk assessment. And again, this was some years ago. So the market economy was a bit different than today. But there were lots of jobs for bioinformaticians. So I was pretty sure that if I would leave this job and I was looking for a new job, I would be able to find a new job. I wasn't worried about getting employed. So if I would try and fail, I was pretty sure I could find another job. But also if I would try for a long time and then fail and then look for another job and then have a gap in my CV, that's not a gap. That's years of learning new skills, which you can then apply to your new job. And where do you then go back to where you started? No, absolutely not. You go to a new position. So I was like, well, in the worst case, I'll just go and get another job, and maybe even with more skills than what I started from. So in that case, if you talk about risk, well, for me, none in personal risk.
It was minimal.
Minimal personal risk. And again, I said this might be different today where there's more people unemployed. So depending on what industry you're in, you might find it's a bigger risk for you personally. But at least at that time, I felt that there's very minimal personal risk. And what people see as, oh, that's scary, jumping into the unknown. Well, for me, I was more worried about not trying it and then it wouldn't be solved. Whereas trying it, then at least I knew that I tried, even if it wouldn't succeed.
Yeah. And it's really interesting the way you looked at it. You had, not that you needed a plan B, but it was that there was a backup there just in case, and it was a far thought from need being required. But you took that leap of faith, never needed to look at what plan B was. But if things for some reason didn't go the way that you thought they might go, then, as you say, you could go back out. You had a lot of skills, you'd adapted, you
another job.
Knowledge, and then you'd get another job. And no doubt, by the way, then you'd do that other job and then you'd still go off on your own and try again. Now, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Not everybody will be wanting to or capable of either to run their own business. A question for you, and it's a debate I have quite often. I don't think it's a wrong or right answer. Do you think we can teach people to be entrepreneurial? Can we teach people that skill of entrepreneurship, or is it something? It's a kind of a gift that we're born with. What's your opinion? And I say there's no wrong or right because everyone has a different opinion on it. I just wonder what your opinion might be.
I think you can, to some extent, you can open people's eyes for what they're capable of, because some people don't realize that they can actually set the scene themselves, and within a defined environment, they can set the rules. Many people believe that the world is already existing, it has set rules, and it's all about learning the rules and then following them. But if that's your mindset, then creating a new company, that falls outside of the existing system. How does that even work, right? Then just it's hard for them to even imagine what it could look like. But if you understand that the world is just an agreed upon way of people interacting with each other, the existing products on the market is a result of, as a circumstances and events and chance and luck, and then you can see, you could create a new product, you can create a business. There's nothing set in the way things currently are. You can change the way things currently are by taking initiative, creating a business, making it into the market. And I think when people say entrepreneurs born or made, I remember first time I heard that question, I looked back at my own history. I was like, I've always been the one to sort of start new things if I thought something was missing. To give you an example, when I was in high school, we had 2 big parties a year, like balls, like where everybody's dressed up. And I thought, that's cool. I would love to make my own dress. Or what would be even cooler would be if we had like all the girls from the class come together to make their dress. So I asked the local government council for youth activities if they had funding for creating a course that we could create our dresses together. So we actually got funding for both having a teacher to teach us how to make our own dresses, and got partly funded the material for making the dresses for the course. So in a way, that was an example of entrepreneurship. I didn't create a company, but I created something that wasn't there before, just out of an idea, like, it would be cool, if we could get these people together, make the dresses. And I know that the local government, they support these kind of activities, and they did. And so we did.
And, this is a common thread that I see when I'm speaking to those that have embarked on their own journey. Some won't even call themselves an entrepreneur. They would just turn around and say, I'm just a business owner. I just started a business because I wanted to. But realistically, they've taken that leap of faith. Because again, what's the classification of an entrepreneur? You know, is it someone that's taking high risk and trying to build a unicorn company to take on the world and solve world problems? Or is it someone that's just putting a roof over their head and food on the table and providing for their family? We won't go down that rabbit hole. But quite often when I speak to people about, why they did it and the risk that they took and all that type of stuff, quite often, the reason people do it is because they want to be in control of their own journey. So, for example, one of the biggest reasons is I want to be able to manage my time. So from that point of view, I want to better plan my day. If I want to take some time out, have time with the family or friends, or do something of excitement for me, then I can do that. If I want to work at a weekend, then I can choose to do that. If I want to be a night out, I can do that. If I want to start early, be an early bird, I can choose to do that. So time is one thing, so planning. So being in control of your own destiny. The other reason is people say, I can earn more money. So I can go off and run my own business because I've worked for so and so and I see how much money they're making, and they're paying me nowhere near what they're making. So if I go and run my own business, then I will start making a lot of that money. And this is an early conversation I quite often have with people. And there's other reasons why they do it as well, but they're two main things that come up. Now I ask them in a year's time, how's it going? And they say, you never guess what, David, I'm so busy. I've had no holiday. I've had no time out. My diary is full. I've had less time with my family than I used to, or whatever that looks like. And I'm not earning much money because I'm pouring it all back in. And I go back to, being an entrepreneur is not for everybody. Running a business is not for everybody. We've got to have those that can lead and run a business and an organization, and those that can help and be part of that journey as well. So it's a really interesting concept about what you're talking about, that taking that brave pill, running your own business, the unknown, not quite sure what it looks like, but I've got a plan B, which I don't need, but it's there. I've thought about it just in case. And I suppose you've never looked back. You've only grown and done more and got bigger and got better and expanded and taken on new clients and new projects and stuff like that. So how does that feel now to look back from that day that you started to where you are today?
Yeah. So just quickly to compare to those motivations that you listed, right? None of those applied to me because my motivation was the impact that I wanted to make. I wanted to solve this problem, which would have an impact for patients. So again, that's a different motivator. I didn't have a criteria. I want more spare time. And if I did, I would have definitely failed very quickly because for many years I had no spare time at all. So looking back, although the original charity that I founded doesn't exist anymore, although the company that we spun out of the charity after running for a number of years eventually closed down, still we had a big impact while we were going. We had a big impact we impacted the thinking of the people around us. The charity, we had lots of people attending our hackathon events, reading our newsletters. So we spread the word about this is a problem, these are potential solutions, get together to try to make it work, right? We actually had an impact on people. And in the company, we had an impact not only on our customers, where we served a number of customers that accelerated their cancer discovery programs thanks to our support, but also the people who worked in the company we provided them with a learning experience journey that they're then taking on to their next part of their careers. So we've sort of built a legacy. We can see where, all the seeds we planted back then have resulted in a number of different things along the way. And even some things that we early on thought, this could be a business opportunity, but we'll leave that on the side. Then we see other people then pick it up and take the baton further. So although we might not be, the company or the individuals on the podium at the end, we provided part of the input to that journey that others have taken forward later. So when I look back, I say, if my measure was on creating impact, did we do it? Absolutely, yes.
Yes, yeah. Hit that target, reach that KPI. Let's talk a bit about challenges. It's sometimes there's been lots of successes, and I want to explore them too. But we like to finish on the successes, of course. But running a business, as I said earlier on at the start of this conversation, it has its challenges. Okay, I think business now is tougher than it's ever been. This is not a get out of jail free card for those that are starting their business, but it's become a lot tougher. There's a lot more legislation, a lot more red tape. We have to tick a lot more boxes and stuff like that. We've also got lots of other pressures on us. Inflation's up today in the UK. We've got global wars that are taking place. We've had pandemics, which we'll talk about in a minute. There's things that are these barriers, these obstructions, these obstacles that are in the way of every business trying to slow us down. And we don't give up easily. That's the thing. We fight on, we battle on. But talk to us about some of the challenges, one being probably COVID and the pandemic for you, because that was one of the ones you mentioned. What some of the things have you faced that at times have thrown you off track, or you've made you go, you've sat there at night, your head in your hands to a degree going, I don't know what to do, what's next? But then you found that motivation and that mojo to go, no, I started the journey and I'm going to finish it. Just explain to those that are listening what that looks like for you. I know it might not be the same for them, but it will resonate, I'm sure.
So some of the common challenges that we had as a business and that many startups face is from the point where you have your first happy pilot customer say, oh, this is a product that we enjoy using, and they maybe paid a small price and maybe they got a discount, the first customer, right? But then to scale it up and have many customers that are actually paying the full price, or at least a regular customer, so you have an actual running business that's profitable down the end. That's always a challenge, because when you come down to it, you have to think, okay, who exactly is my customer and how do I find that exact customer? For us, we knew that our customers were in biopharma, and specifically the biopharma who were starting new projects in so preclinical cancer trials, so drugs that they expect might have an effect in anti-cancer activity, but before they go into human trials, they need to test them on cell models and mouse models, and those were our customers. So that was very well defined. And then we had, there were only so many of them worldwide, so we could quickly make a list. But then to find the right person within each of these companies to talk to, when these are multiple multinational mega corporations, was a drag. We would go to conference after conference, talk to person after person who turned out to not be the right person, when I asked them to introduce us to someone who could introduce us to someone else. Talk to the right person. Yes. So the journey of not only knowing who your market is, but how to reach them and finding a reproducible way of reaching them, so that it doesn't become all running around conferences talking to people. That might be the way, but it's different business to business. That's always a big challenge. So some things you can change yourself. Like if there's not already if there's not already a community for preclinical studies in cancer research, well, you can create that community, right? Then you can sort of create your own space where your market is coming together, and then you immediately have all your customers lined up in front of you, right? But the other things that you can't change, like for example, policies, regulations, things that are super inert in the short term, like you can't change the law to be something else, or change the way that big biopharma works to be something else just for your benefit. No, it doesn't work like that, right? And then you have to work your way around these things. Okay, what are the boulders that you can't move? But then, given that, find the paths around them, right? That can take you to where you want to go. And then once you found a path, how can you make that faster so you quicker get to those customers and do that again and again repeatedly? And then you can then put multiple people on the task, and then you get even more customers, and then you start seeing the flywheel spinning and your business take off. That's, I think, one of the never-ending or eternal problems that startups face.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. You use the word boulder, and I get it. That's that obstruction in your path that you're trying to reach your destination. But some would give up. The sane people would get to that point and go, I'll just give up. But those that are, entrepreneurial, who are insane, will go, no, I'm not giving up. I'll climb over it. I don't know how high it is, but we'll give it a go. Or I'll tunnel underneath it, or I'll go 100 miles in the other direction to get round it. Because we're passionate about achieving what it is that we want to achieve. And we are going to get thrown off our path because that's life. But it's all about how we overcome those. So I suppose I'm really saying for anyone listening to this, watching this, maybe on catch up at a later stage, you're going to face a challenge in business. Don't give up. There is a time and a place where you must sometimes admit defeat and look at why, but don't give up at the first hurdle. Keep pushing, keep trying, reach out for help and support, because there's lots of lovely people out there that will help you on your journey, which leads me neatly into the question. You haven't done this all alone. You started it. It was your brainchild, if you like. But what support and help have you had along the way? You don't need to name individuals. Feel free to do so. But how's that support around you helped you? And that could be family. It could be mentors. How's that helped you on your journey?
Yeah, so part of that story of who helped me, part of that story is location, because when I came to Cambridge to work for Illumina, at that point, I did not know anybody in Cambridge other than my immediate colleagues at Illumina. So I didn't have any network, didn't have any contacts or anything. But from the moment that I thought, how do I solve this problem? I started talking to people, and I'm sure Alan would bring this up. He would say, I remember when we had a chat in, I think it was the Eagle Pub, where I had a chat with him. So I have this idea. I want to start a charity. I want to solve this problem. What can I do? And he immediately introduced me to 2 or 3 other people that could help me walk on that path and answer some of my questions that would take me further. So thanks to me not being hesitant to asking questions and reaching out to people, I quickly discovered that the biggest power is networks, because once you know people, then you have more people that you can ask, and you can ask more of the right people, and you can quicker get to the answers that you're after, whether that's answers on how to set up a business, or answers on how do I find the right person in AstraZeneca, or answers to what is the right contract format for a subscription service or a SaaS business model. All of these, whatever it is, whether it's highly technical, highly commercial, or on the journey as a startup entrepreneur, I would reach out to my network and ask people. And as soon as we've closed our first funding round with a number of angel investors from the Cambridge ecosystem, that immediately gave me a list of people to reach out to who were literally invested in our success. And they were all very generous with their time on talking through their best advice, relating it to their own experience, connecting me to other people who could also help on all these aspects. So I would say there were many, many people supported on the journey. A number of them became our angel investors, or they were first angel investors, then became advisors. And some were more ad hoc on the side, mentors or advisors. But I only found them because I was reaching out and asking who's the right person to ask this question to, or who can help me with this. And so many people were generous with the time. It would take me the rest of the hour to list them all.
Yeah, I love there's a couple of things I just want to kind of pull out of that, because there was a few things that just resonated so quickly with me. The power of networks. It's one of my top tips is all about relationships. And I will be asking for your top tip before we finish today. But one of my top tips is relationships. Networking is such a powerful aspect. Meeting people, asking questions. Don't be shy to ask questions. If you don't ask, you don't get a response.
Yeah.
So ask away. Obviously, there's a balance. Keep asking questions, but if you know you're annoying somebody or a bit too much, then maybe just dampen down the questions. But ask away. But build those relationships. Get out there, meet people, and they will. The right people will also extend their networks as well. So now, as you've just mentioned, from a meeting in a pub, which is brilliant. This is the other bit. The meeting in a pub with Alan, the Eagle, that started as a one conversation. That introduced 2 or 3 other people. That then expanded out, and that grew your network. And that has helped you, not solely, but has helped you to get to where you are today. And I think the last thing on that is that networking, relationships, collaboration, partnerships, we've got to be willing to pay it forward ourselves as well. One of the things I'm so passionate about is who can I help? Who can I connect? One of the reasons we run this opportunity to interview fantastic guests like yourself is because we want to encourage the next wave of entrepreneurs. I won't use young, but the next wave of entrepreneurs, because there's going to be lots of people that are tuning into this, all different age groups, thinking, can I do this? And my answer, and I'm going to get your nod of approval here, is yes, of course you can. You can do it. Anyone can do it if they put their mind to it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what the future looks like. We're getting close to thinking about wrapping up the show, so I want to explore the future. Where do you see things going? Change the world, which is what you're doing day by day. What does Fiona and the team see the future to look like? And don't give away any of your intellectual property. That's not what I'm asking. Just give us a taster of what that might look like.
Yeah. So in my current role, I'm very much still motivated by impact. In this case, it's not me starting a new business, it's me supporting those who are starting new businesses. And just to give you a bit of the context, all around the UK, there's amazing technology development happening. All the scientists and academics discovering the most amazing stuff and new technologies, and from anything from life sciences to new gadgets and measurement tools, etc. And many of those scientists, they struggle to figure out, well, could this be a business? And if it's a business, how do I do that? And this is where we come in from Pioneer Group, because we are helping them as a delivery partner for Innovate UK. You might have heard of the iCure program. We're delivery partner for what comes next for the life science companies to take that idea to actually spin out the company and actually make that business idea ready to the point where they can raise funding and go the next step of their business trajectory and eventually become successful businesses. And so for me, that is a way for me to multiply my impact, because we are supporting many startups at the same time to get through that big hurdle of taking the jump from being an academic, from a safe little maybe big, but a safe environment in the academic world, living in your lab, working from writing paper to paper, to actually going out there, talking to customers, figuring out your business model, creating something new that wasn't there before, where a lot of the academic work is usually done within very fixed context and framing and what you can or cannot do within the academic world. But once you're in the business world, you can do just about anything. Okay, legally, okay. But you can do just about anything. You can create something that didn't exist before, and you can find new customers. You can find a whole new way of doing business. Everything is possible. There's no set rules. You have to go and explore it all on your own, which can be quite a jump for an academic mindset. But to see them making that jump and then make it into a successful business, that's very satisfying. And that sort of satisfies, as you say, my tick mark for, yes, am I creating the impact? Yes, definitely.
I love this, because I didn't know, obviously, this was exactly the journey that you're on now, how it's pivoted and changed. But I mentioned the paying it forward, the helping others, where you've had some of that help and support in the past. You see the benefit of it, and now you're doing that, and you're supporting others. You're providing that mentorship, that I call it the shoulder to cry on when it's required, and someone to laugh with and celebrate when needed as well. And it's such an important piece of the business community, people supporting and helping, that networking, that relationships, and that moving forward together is such a big piece. I love this, and we could sit here and explore it more and more in detail as well. So that's next steps. Helping, supporting, working with others, helping to fund through Innovate UK and the programs that they offer, which is a great way for those to raise grant funding, to springboard their businesses, to get them off and running. Any regrets? Is there anything that, if you could go back in time, if we had the DeLorean and we had Back to the Future, if you could jump in that car today and go back and tell your younger self, or leave a little note, is there anything that you would change? Some cases there's nothing. You go, well, that was it, and I'm not going to change it. But is there anything that you know now that you would have maybe done then, apart from putting some money on a horse that wins the Grand National or something like that? That's not allowed.
Of course. The one thing that I would definitely tell my younger self would be to take time off.
Okay, relax a little.
Because it took many years into my entrepreneurial journey before I allowed myself to have weekends where I would have even one day without working, and now I'm up to 2 days without working on the weekend.
A month.
But back, I did many years of just working every day. It was from the morning till the evening, because I was so passionate about making this happen, making it work, that to some extent I didn't realize the toll it takes on your health, on your relationships, your family. And you need to take time for yourself. You need to take time for your family. These are things you don't get back. You only have now to spend that time. And if you don't take care of yourself and your health, you end up crashing. I had some crashes during my time, and every time it was a wake-up call to, okay, I should actually take more time to relax and recover. And many people will tell you this, but I see again and again that many entrepreneurs don't realize it until they've experienced it on their own skin. But basically, entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
And if you spend all your energy in the first half hour, you don't have energy for the rest of the marathon. It's just not there. And you will not be the winner of that marathon because you did not pace yourself. And it's this pacing that's so difficult to learn. And most people turn out to need to learn it on their own on their own before they realize, oh, it applies to me as well.
And as mentors, we, and advisors and a friend as well, we can turn around to people and say, look, take some time out, don't push yourself. You're right, it's a marathon. This is not a sprint. It's not about, getting there tomorrow. Things do take time, reaching out to the right person, getting pushed from pillar to post, don't be despondent. It's just part of the journey. But we all need time out. And I think it's a great tip as well to just sit back, take some time out, whether that's family, whether that's just go for a walk on your own in the park,
exactly,
for a run, let yourself detach from the day-to-day business life.
Yes.
And because I actually find when I do that, I'm going to take quite a time out in August with my family because holiday season and stuff like that. And I find some of my best ideas come because I'm not in that mindset of business, and something clicks and it's like, wow, there it is. I've been looking for that for the last year, and now it's just that eureka moment. So I love that. Take time out, don't burn out. Is
exactly
fantastic. So there's one little tip I think we probably all really deep down agree would go back and tell our younger self. We all have the same 86,400 seconds every day. How we utilize it is super important, but it's not all work. It's got to be, dare I say, if it does exist, that work-life balance. Two final questions. This is not an AI conversation, but it's a hot topic that's being spoken about everywhere on a daily basis. How is AI impacting what you do? And I'd imagine it's having some good positive outcomes as well as maybe it's going to take everybody's job scenario. Let's not talk. I want to talk about the positives. How is maybe AI being utilized in your field of expertise, and how is it benefiting?
So it's interesting to watch this because the whole world is on a learning journey as far as AI is concerned. And every field of business are gradually learning what can AI do for us and what can't it do for us. And being very impact focused myself, I'm also thinking of environmental impact. So just using AI for AI's sake to say we've got AI in our product, while it's costing loads and loads of energy for every time you generate an AI generated image, it's not worth it. It's not worth burning the planet for just to say you have AI in your product. But there are some things that can really be really good use cases for AI in the sciences, in business, in the way that you run your operations and so on. So just a few examples. The kind of things that are really good use cases for AI are the things that are for example, helping you brainstorm ideas. Then you can bounce it off and AI, you can get even more ideas. And this is useful for many scientists because a lot of the scientific process is to brainstorm ideas. What should the next experiment look like, for example? So it's great just to have some ideas, and you can ask it to be even more wild and exciting than what you would do. And then you maybe spark some new ideas. What it's not good for are things that require you to be super exact. It has to be exactly like this, because if you have anything that's a super structured process, yes, you can automate it, but you don't want to add any kind of, AI creativity into that, or the by now well-known AI hallucinations, right? So there's a number of processes and business operations where that just doesn't fit. You need something that's much more structured. Yes, you can automate and use software tools, absolutely, but there the AI flavor doesn't fit. Mm-hmm. And we are very, very conscious about this at Pioneer Group, about the cohort of founders that we are supporting from this jump from academia to now creating a business, that they need to figure out early on where does or doesn't AI fit into their business, either on the scientific R&D side or in the operations side, so that they can take advantages where it makes sense and ignore it where they don't need it, so that they spend the energy in where that energy is best used. And this goes for any company that an investor wants to invest in. You don't want just to pour money in and it's been spent for all sorts of spurious purposes. No, you want the money to be spent on where it makes the most impact for the business, right? And by us helping our companies realize where it makes most impact for the business, that will also help them make the best use of investors' money, which eventually will help them be the best possible case for business success. So that, it all links together in this sense.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I say we could go down that whole rabbit hole talking about AI and the benefits and the cons and will it steal our jobs? How's it going to change the world? That's another conversation for a different day. To finally wrap up, a top business tip to share with our listeners and audience here today. I mean, and you've probably got hundreds, by the way, and it might not necessarily be your number one business tip, but what would be your top tip that you'd like to leave everybody with today?
Yeah. My top tip would be always build relations. So, which also links with don't burn bridges. So if you're encountering, maybe you got introduced to someone that you thought might be able to help your business find a new customer or so on, and it turns out this person doesn't know that business that you're trying to get in touch with. So you very quickly find out this is not a useful person for you for the purpose that you were introduced for. Some people are in the mindset, oh, then I immediately just ignore them and remove them from my life kind of thing. Whereas my suggestion would be, actually, this person probably has other knowledge or other network opportunities that might be perfect for you, but you will never find out if you don't ask them. So you need to approach every relationship with curiosity, understanding what's the perspective of this person, what's their, if as time allows, a bit about their history or their background, to understand what is the kind of perspective they're coming with, what are the likely context or knowledge that they might have as part of their experience. And then you can also see where it matches up with your experience and where you can be helpful for them. And as soon as you find a way you be helpful for them, you build a relationship with that person, and then it's doubles, if not triples, 100-fold the likelihood that they later will become useful for your journey. So don't cut the ties or burn bridges. I see some founders that, for example, if an investor decides not to invest and they get angry and grumpy and they never talk to that investor again. No, maybe they're coming from another perspective, and maybe if you stay in good contact with this investor, they can later be the person who introduced you to that customer that you wanted to be in touch with. Right? You never know where these connections are going to come from.
Exactly that. Yeah, don't burn bridges, I think, is very important, because they know other people as well, and word spreads. So that's another way to think about it. I'm a great believer in those relationships. Building them, maintaining them as well is very, very important. Which brings me on to my final part of this morning. Thank you for that top tip. Brilliant top tip. One that we should all do more. If people want to get in touch and learn more about you, can I share your LinkedIn? Is that the best way? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to share my LinkedIn profile. That's an easy way to reach me. You can also reach me via Pioneer Group on my Pioneer Group email. If you're yourself a startup founder and maybe you're still at university or academia, you want to spin out your company, do have a look at the programs that we offer at Pioneer Group that can support you on that journey. We have an accelerator, we have the launch program. And if you already started, we can help you find lab space in some of the Pioneer Group lab spaces around the country. So do reach out and let's have a chat.
Brilliant. And I've popped that into the chat for everybody to be able to see, but it's here on the screen as well. Very easy to find you, actually. It's just Fiona Nielsen in LinkedIn. And of course, yes, connect with Fiona because you never know who can help who and who you're connected to. And of course, let's also be honest, Fiona, who they might be connected to that might better help you. This is the whole thing. It's this is the circle of business. Let's help each other. Fiona, it's been absolutely amazing having you here today. Just tell us a little bit more about your journey and us exploring entrepreneurship and some of those challenges and the successes and the things that you've done. Of course, I wish you, on behalf of everybody watching and listening today, because they can't tell you that directly, they can put it in the chat, but I wish you all the best for your journey. Hopefully we'll get the chance to meet in person as well. Maybe when I'm next in Cambridge, we can go to the Eagle pub and have a bit more of a meaningful conversation there. But once again, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you everyone for tuning in today, whether you're watching this live or on catch up. It's a pleasure to have you here. We wish you good afternoon, maybe good evening, or possibly good morning. Thank you very much. Thank you, Fiona.
Thank you, David.